breaking bread. On this episode of Smokey Dave Presents.
Today we're going to make the ultimate staple of mankind, bread. A delightful and simple bread recipe that you can make with just a simple Dutch oven, and all kinds of mix-ins that you can add to make your bread special for your specific occasion. Today, I'm going to be making the perfect bread to serve with spaghetti, so instead, I'm going to actually have it with fried smoked chicken because I'm weird.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, for the first thing we want to do is we want to get our yeast activated. So we're going to start out with a cup and a half of fairly warm water, about 110 degrees. And if you can't get your water up to that temperature, you can always zap it a little bit, but make sure it doesn't get above that, because if it's too hot, it'll kill the yeast. And to that, I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of raw honey. I use raw honey because it doesn't have any additives or preservatives put into it. You don't want that. You definitely want to get that honey dissolved into that water, and that's what the yeast is going to use. But you don't want the warmth of the water to go above 110 degrees because that could kill the yeast. This is like the perfect temperature. 110, 105, something around like that. You can do it at a lower temperature, it'll just take longer. Basically what we're going to do is we want to just kind of get that yeast mixed in, and then we're going to cover it with plastic. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be using this King Arthur brand flour, and it is bread flour with a very high gluten content, 12.7. It's not quite up to pizza dough level, but this is exactly what you want for the kind of bread we're making today. We're going to measure out 4 cups. I like to get cups right in the bag. I hope this is showing up. See, it is not. Alright, and what I like to do is I want to make sure that cup doesn't have any air pockets. Then you just use the knife to scrape it across. Let me get that more into the shot here. And I always sift my flour. You can get these sifters for a couple of bucks, usually even at your grocery store. And that's just to get any lumps or anything like that.
Let's get this flour measured out, and then we could add some mix-ins. We got our 4 cups of sifted flour, so let's shred some smoked Parmesan cheese, about a half a cup. We'll add that into the flour. I'll also add a little bit of oregano, and we'll just mix that right in. Now I'm going to add about a tablespoon of oregano. I'm not really going to measure it that well, just in my hand. I'm also going to add a tablespoon of minced prepared garlic, and then finally a teaspoon of salt, and then all of our dry ingredients will be ready. I highly recommend a stand mixer if it is possible for you. This certainly can be done with a hand mixer or by hand, but it will be much more physically demanding. The bowl of activated yeast we set aside is now ready, and you can tell this fact because of the layer of foam that was on the surface of the liquid. We add this liquid to our dry ingredients, and then we can turn on our stand mixer and begin mixing. And we will mix this until it forms a dough that doesn't cling to the sides of the bowl. You will most likely have to stop the mixer from time to time just to use a spatula to push the dough down and make sure everything's getting mixed together, as you see I'm having to do here. And you'll have to do that from time to time as it forms until you have a solid ball of dough. And once we have that solid ball of dough, and you can see now that it's not sticking to the sides or anything, we can get our bowl set up so that we can allow the dough to rise.
Our dough is mixed, and it now needs to rest so that it can puff up, basically. The dough needs to rise. And for that, we're just going to leave it right in our KitchenAid bowl here. And what I have here is a towel that I've soaked with water and put in the microwave, and it is hot. It's steaming hot, and that's perfect. We'll put that over the top, and this will keep the dough from losing moisture. And I like to just kind of keep most of it up like that. And then what I usually do is I'll take a piece of cling wrap, plastic, you can use tin foil if you want to. And I just kind of keep that over it, so it is just like that. We want it to be able to breathe. And of course the moisture in there is going to keep the dough from getting dried out on the outside, and it's going to keep that yeast just going. And typically for me, I only need to let this rest for 2 hours, and it's almost all the way up to where it's actually touching that cloth.
Say my name. It's Smokey Dave. Subscribe today. To have something delicious to go with our bread, let's prepare these smoked chicken breasts I have right here. To begin, I will coat these chicken breasts in some flour, then an egg wash, then some Italian breadcrumbs. To the cup of flour, I'm going to add a tablespoon of garlic powder and a teaspoon of cayenne pepper. I don't add the salt and pepper here because I can always add that when it's time to eat. Make sure all of the chicken meat and skin is fully coated with both the flour and breadcrumbs for a perfect crispy chicken. All right. Well, look at that. We're right at 350 degrees. It's time to put that chicken in. Now remember, we're not trying to cook this chicken all the way. We're just trying to get a nice crust on it, and then we're going to put it in a ceramic pan and put it in the oven and bake it. This is the way my grandmother used to make chicken. Although we were never able to copy the recipe, she just had it in her head, and she tried to tell us how to make it, but no one could ever make it quite as good. So I'm just going to learn how to make my own style. I'm going to let that sit. I don't want that to boil over. I might have to do these one at a time so that the oil doesn't come out the side. We don't want that. And we'll cook one side, let it get nice and crispy. Cook the other side, let it nice get crispy, and then we'll put it back into the ceramic pan. I think they're probably going to be okay. Famous last words. Let's hope not. And yeah, that's getting a little high. Nice crisp outer coating. Pretty much the same as searing. Goes in here. Now we need to place our chicken in the oven at 350 degrees, 177 Celsius for 45 minutes in a baking dish covered with about a quarter cup of chicken broth and a quarter cup of beer so we can make a delicious gravy when we're done. Our bread is done rising now, so we'll need to punch it down and then knead it to get the glutens to relax. I'll be using the stand mixer to do my kneading for me, as it is so much easier and frankly much more effective. After a good 10 minutes of kneading in the stand mixer, we will cover the dough and let it set for another 10 minutes. After the 10 minutes is up, I will tighten the dough into a ball and set it into our Dutch oven on some parchment. I'm going to let the dough sit in the Dutch oven for about 30 minutes so it starts rising again. And that's perfect timing, because when it's done, our chicken will be ready to come out of the oven, and then the bread can go in.
Okay, folks, the time has come. Look at that. What we're gonna do is we're gonna put a little bit of olive oil on here. Just like that. Seeing as I'm the only one who's gonna be eating this bread, not you, I'm gonna rub it around without putting gloves on. Then I'm gonna use my super sharp knife to make a X cut, which will allow the bread to expand. And then, remember that extra Parmesan I had? We'll sprinkle a little of that on top. Yeah. Some cracked peppercorn. A little bit of salt, not too much of salt, just a little. And now, she's ready to go in the oven. Let's do it.
Chicken's done.
Time to get our bread in there. We're going to leave this in here for 30 minutes at 400 degrees, and then we'll take the top off so that we get some browning on top. We'll turn the temperature down to 350 degrees and basically just wait until it's brown the way we like it. And then we'll take it out. It'll continue to cook in its own heat for a little while, and then it'll be ready to serve.
The main part of the bread is done, and now we're letting it brown. And there it is, our delicious, fresh, hot, soft, moist, homemade bread, ready to dip into that chicken gravy, or just to have alongside our tender, juicy fried chicken, or perhaps a chicken sandwich even. Does it really get any better than this? Well, comfort food is always something that makes life just that much more worth living. So I invite you to try your hand at making some of this delicious bread, and I will leave the complete recipe down in the description. And don't forget, it's no joke, everything's better with smoke.